your confidence sinking, positive thinking helps you on the way, my friend. When things look black, try positive thinking. Treat every season as spring, no glancing back. Try positive thinking, trust what tomorrow may bring. This crazy world that we live in will keep on spinning round. But with good, strong, positive thinking, we'll get together and life won't let us down.
Good Sunday morning to you. I hope everyone is here and feeling good with some positive thinking. We're going to be talking about happiness today, so you might hear a little bounce in the music to reflect that at the very least. We are glad that you're here today at Presbyterian Church of the Covenant in Greensburg, North Carolina. We welcome those who are watching online as well. We always invite you to please go to our website, athinkingchurch.org. And if you appreciate our broadcast, there's a place you can make a donation by clicking the donate button. That helps us broadcast, but also at some point it may actually help us upgrade our equipment so that you get an even better picture. So we encourage you to do that. For those that are here, as always, I'm going to remind you that checking out the other mics, making sure that it's pointing at me. That our offering basket is on the back table. We will not be passing that. We just ask you to remember that as you're either coming in or going. We certainly appreciate that and your support very, very much. I will call your attention, hopefully when you walked in, you got a song sheet for later, but also this description sheet of our arrangement up here from Jim North. A wonderful description of what's going on, and a great quotation from Science of the Mind magazine. So if you don't have one, I encourage you to make sure you grab one before you leave today so you'll kind of understand what he's doing here. It's really well done and well thought out. With that said, I'm going to start us off with two readings today. One will be a scripture reading and the other from another source. The scripture reading comes from Paul's letter to the, why did that name just escape me? Colossians. I was trying to put a C in there somewhere. Colossians. Paul's letter to the Colossians, chapter 3, verses 12 through 15. It's even funnier that I can't remember because this actually has one of those, I always talk about the verses that I really love. This one happens to be one of the verses. It was just one of those little, I don't want to say senior moment yet, but maybe I was getting there. Maybe I was getting there. I don't want to say that out loud though, so let's pretend like I didn't say that out loud. Hear these words. As God's chosen ones, holy and beloved, clothe yourself with compassion, kindness, humility, meekness, and patience. Bear with one another. And if anyone has a complaint against another, forgive each other, just as the Lord has forgiven you. So you also must forgive. And above all, clothe yourself with love, which binds everything together in perfect harmony. And let the peace of Christ rule in your hearts, to which indeed you were called in the one body, and be thankful. The next reading comes from an Oglala, Dakota medicine man by the name of Black Elk. This comes from his book, Black Elk Speaks. He says, the first peace, and that's P-E-A-C-E, the first peace, which is the most important, is that which comes with the souls of people when they realize their relationship, their oneness with the universe and all of its powers. And when they realize at the center of the universe dwells the Great Spirit, and that its center is really everywhere. It is within each of us.
Guess who just joined the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
Dolly Parton.
Dolly Parton! Yep. So this is a Dolly Parton song. It's been a long, dark night, and I've been waiting for the morning. It's been a long, hard fight, but I see a brand new day dawning. I've been looking for the sunshine. You know, I ain't seen it so long. And everything's gonna work out just fine. Everything's gonna be alright. That's been all wrong. 'Cause I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. And everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. It's been a long, long time since I've known the taste of freedom. Those clinging minds that had me bound, no, I don't need them. Oh, no, I've been like a captured eagle. You know, an eagle's born to fly. Now I have won my freedom. Like an eagle, I am eager for the sky. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Oh, everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Oh, everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a clear blue day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. I can see the light of a brand new day. I can see the light of a clear blue morning. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. Everything's gonna be alright. It's gonna be okay.
I told you the music was going to be bouncy. It's great. Thank you so much. I love it. The title of my message this morning is Happiness via Compassion and Connectedness. So several years ago, I ran across a story that for some reason stopped me in my tracks. As a matter of fact, it's a story that still to this day I think about from time to time. I'm pretty sure I've shared this with you before. Technically, it's a letter from one of the people who was involved in the story. And so I'd like to share that simple story with you again and talk about why it might have struck me so profoundly. And I know this is a message about happiness, but it should be telling that for the first time ever, I got some tissue up here. It always gets to me when I read this story. We'll see if I can get through it. The letter said, "Dear waitress at the Frankfort, Kentucky Steak and Shake who served us Saturday night. As a waitress in a 24-hour sit-down fast food restaurant, I'm sure you get a lot of odd requests, especially from harried parents dealing with children in the visually stimulating, a black and white checkered decor, cold, audibly loud environment. But I have to tell you, you handled our table with grace and calmness that belied the busy dining room. When we ordered a hot dog for our autistic 9-year-old son Scott and explained that the mustard must be made with that squiggly line on top of the hot dog, much like one would see in the picture of any hot dog in a children's storybook, you didn't even bat an eye. You had no idea if he'd received a hot dog without mustard, or not in a squiggly line in such a loud, cold, visually stimulating environment, it would have likely caused a meltdown for which there may have been no immediate recovery. You just nodded, smiled, said you understood, and brought us a perfect hot dog. You made sure that the milkshake had a cherry on top, and brought him a salad as a side to his kid's meal, even though that isn't the norm. You were a fantastic waitress. And we had a meal with no issues. And as a mother of a child diagnosed with, quote, autism spectrum disorder manifested by issues in reading and auditory comprehensions, issues in interpersonal relationships, and issues in sensory processing with an above average raw intelligence, end quote, I can assure you, many meals out aren't handled so smoothly. And many waitresses and many waiters truly don't have any desire to cater to the odd requests of one small family. We had to eat and run in a hurry. We had a meeting about an hour away and only had 45 minutes to get there. We left and we're halfway through our meeting when Scott realized he left his Joy toy on the table. Now, you have no way of knowing this, but the things that are special to Scott are obsessively special to him. And I don't use the term obsessively lightly. Joy is the emotion joy, at this point from the recent movie back then, Inside Out. We watch the previews about 43,000 times a day. His wish list for his birthday this Friday is the entire set of action figure emotions from the movie. Right now, he only owns Joy. And she goes everywhere with him, from bed to bath to table to bike. She is either in his hand or pocket. There was no meltdown when he realized he left Joy. There was more like an off button. His entire body deflated. His face completely fell. He had no emotion whatsoever. We told him that we would stop. We would stop and purchase a new one for him. He emotionlessly said he didn't even want to know. When we left the meeting at nearly 9 that night, we called your restaurant. And the woman who answered the phone told us that they had found Joy and had kept her for us. The hour-long drive to your restaurant was probably the longest drive in Scott's life. When we took Scott into the restaurant to get Joy, we found out that she had been given a tour of the kitchen, had rode in the pockets of as many staff members as she could so she could get as many experiences as possible before we returned to pick her up. And when you came to talk to us, you said you had had a feeling that she was important to Scott, and you knew that we would come back for her. I can't come up with words to express my gratitude for the gentle care you gave our son and his lost toy Saturday night. It would have been easy to ignore the request for mustard and salad and a cherry and just toss the piece of plastic in the garbage when the table was bussed. But you listened, you heard, and you loved him even though you didn't know him. I don't know if you have any idea of the obstacles he's going to face in life. We don't even know. We're spending his childhood trying to prepare him and teach him coping skills for surviving and thriving in this dark and fallen world. When we receive little bits of light from people like you, it gives us hope for what the future holds. Thank you for the joy you gave us. I did better than I thought I was on that one. Like I said, to be completely frank, while I have read that story multiple times, it still brings happiness, a joy to me with every reading. And that's set my curiosity off. Why is it that stories like this impact most of us so profoundly? I mean, it's clearly a true story about people who are loving and compassionate, but beyond the obvious feel-good qualities of what it is that connects us with these kinds of stories, what is it that makes it connect with us so profoundly? After all, none of us know Scott and his family, nor do we know any of the particular staff at this particular Steak and Shake in Frankfort, Connecticut. So why? Well, why do stories like this connect with us on such an emotive level? Well, I certainly had my suspicions about why, but I was curious to learn more about this condition which seems to afflict living animals, from rats to elephants and even humans. So I set out on a little brief investigation into the concept of compassion. Now, for this discussion, I'm defining compassion as, quote, our capacity to experience the same feelings or emotions that someone else is feeling. And honestly, considering the sometimes massive divides that we are experiencing in our country, that frequently come along with some hatred of other, a hate that can easily steal away our happiness, seems to me the time for taking a deeper look at compassion couldn't be much better. So closely related to compassion, so close that at times they're barely inseparable, is the idea of empathy. As a matter of fact, Webster's defines empathy as fairly similar: the feeling that you understand and share another person's experiences and emotions. So you put those two together, these two emotions, and they led me down a path of thought that I believe helps explain why stories about people we don't know can have such a profound impact on us. By the definitions that I just shared about empathy and compassion, which it seems most of us felt were pretty good definitions, when empathizing, when being compassionate, we are literally treating another living being as if it is a part of us. Their hopes, their fears, their joys, and in some ways become our own as well. And that reality reminded me of one of the cores of Buddhism, the Buddhist teaching on morality. Buddhism teaches that all life is intertwined. The concept is called dependent, origination. And it says that nothing exists in isolation. Nothing is independent of other life. In Christianity, the concept of interconnectedness is echoed in Jesus' teachings, like teaching of the Sermon on the Mount when he says the sun shines equally on the just and unjust, the rain falls on the good and the evil. There's even a Japanese term for dependent origination. It's called inge, which literally means arising in relationship. And essentially, it means that all beings and phenomena exist and occur only because of their relationship with other beings or phenomena. Everything in the world comes into existence in response to causes and conditions. Therefore, none of us can exist in absolute independence from other people and animals. Given those acknowledgments of our connectedness to each other from so many varying sources, like I just did, consider the implications that empathy and compassion have on us when we're trying to achieve happiness. If our feelings are interdependent on, connected to, and with the feelings of others, much like many great spiritual teachers would tell us, then part of making ourselves happy is making others happy too. One of the more interesting ways this impacts our personal happiness is in how it alters our relationships. The interconnectedness of humanity, the interconnectedness of creation, tells us that we all exist in relationship to each other, which means with each person that we experience, we have the opportunity to develop personally as a compassionate being. And when we recognize the reality of the interconnectedness and the importance of compassion, every relationship we experience, good or bad, they become an opportunity for personal growth, which I would argue puts us that much closer to experiencing a more expansive happiness in our own lives. And another way that compassion and the way that it points to our interconnectedness can expand our personal happiness is simply in the recognition that we are connected to every living being. The more compassion we express, the more we recognize the reality of this interconnectedness. And the more we recognize this interconnectedness, the less likely we are to feel lonely, isolated, and unhappy because of it. Ultimately, this way of seeing the world helps pull us out of egocentric perspectives. And it promotes more joy, both personally and on larger scales, all of which can help lead us to a more compassionate world. Or as Buddhist philosopher Daisaku Ikeda once said, we're all human beings who, through some mystic bond, were born to share the same limited lifespan on this planet. A small green oasis in the universe. Why do we sometimes quarrel and victimize one another? If we could all keep the image of the vast heavens in mind, I believe that it would go a long way towards resolving conflicts and disputes. If our eyes are fixed on eternity, we come to realize that the conflicts of our little egos are really sad and unimportant. In the story I opened with, Scott lost his joy, and the compassion of others reconnected him with it. Every moment, every relationship Every time we feel a compassionate tug on our heartstrings, we have the opportunity to not only help connect others with their joy to their happiness, then we also have the opportunity to connect with our joy and our happiness as well. I, for one, can think of few better reasons to live a more compassionate and connected life.
This is Etta James, and just bear with me. Oh, sometimes I get a good feeling. Yeah. No, no, no. Yeah. I just want to tell you right now that I believe, I really do believe that something got a hold on me, yeah. Oh, it must be love. Something got a hold on me right now, child. Ooh, it must be love. Let me tell you now, I got a feeling. I feel so strange. Everything about me seems to have changed. Step by step, a brand new walk. Even sounds sweeter when I talk. I said, oh, oh, oh. Oh, baby, it must be love. Let me tell you now, something got a hold on me right now. Oh, it must be love. Something got a hold on me right now, child. Ooh, it must be love. Let me tell you now, I never felt like this before. Something got a hold on me that won't let go. Believe me, I'd die if I only could. I feel so strange, but it sure is good. I said, oh, 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 hey, baby, it must be love. Let me tell you now, my heart feels happy. My feet feel light. I shake all over, but I feel alright. I never felt like this before. Something got a hold of me that won't let go. I never thought it could happen to me. Got me happy when I'm in misery. I never thought it could be this way. Love sure gone put a hurt on me. I said, oh, 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 baby, it must be love. It walks like love. It talks like love. Makes me feel alright in the middle of the night. La 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 la, la 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 la, la la la.
Etta James in church. It doesn't get much better than that. Thank you. We enter into a moment of a more inward turn time in our service. So I do invite you to join me in a prayer and a meditation to accept these words in the way that you most need them right now. Let's bow our heads together. Life is full of distractions, full of glitter and gold, full of things which we have given value, Too frequently, we find ourselves made captive and distracted by these valuable baubles we have created. Sometimes they are money and the things which it can buy. Sometimes they are ideas which we have raised to the status of gods. Sometimes they are desires which we have elevated over the desires and sometimes over the needs of other people. And sometimes they are much more devious than that. Sometimes they are greed, power, privilege, hate, revenge, self-importance, and any number of emotional sinkholes that can pull us in and pull us under until it seems we have no choice but to live in them the rest of our lives. May we be reminded that life Jesus taught about and about which other spiritual teachers taught us is a full life, an abundant life. Abundant because its focus is on joy, hope, forgiveness, helping others, supporting one another, kindness, peace, love, and those things which build each other and ourselves up. May we set aside the things that distract us and take up more of the things that make life more full. And in doing so, may we increase the fullness and the happiness of the lives of others and ourselves. Amen. Receive this blessing. May you walk in harmony with each other and with creation, recognizing that you are one. And may you know love and happiness throughout your life, and may your words and actions bring that love and happiness to all.
Once I knew a man, he was always a gloomy, full of doubt and optimism, he'd scoff. Then one day he looked at the world and decided, compared with the others in life, he was far better off. When you have good, strong, positive thinking, good, strong, positive thinking, good, strong, positive thinking, we'll get together and life won't let us down.